Here's the thing that nobody tells you. The most important conversation of your life is the one you're having with yourself, and it runs all day. You don't realize how loud it is until you slow down enough to actually hear it. And whatever the pattern that's running in your own head, it's almost certainly the same pattern on the outside that you share with the people closest to you. The voice inside and the voice outside are usually the same. A couple weeks ago, we talked about courage. We talked about that lying voice of self-doubt, that voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" That voice that says, "People like you don't deserve things like this." We talked about how it's just a voice and it can be argued with. Today, we're going to go a little deeper because it's not just about the voice that doubts you. It's about the voice that runs in the background of your mind all day. The voice that comments on everything all day long, on every single thing you do. The voice that says, "You should have handled that better." The voice that says, "Look at that gut," when you're looking in the mirror. The voice that says, "Everybody else has their act together. Why don't you?" That's the voice you have to deal with. I'll tell you something from my own experience. That whole time after I had all kinds of medical issues and I had to fight back to being where I am today, that voice in my own head, it was relentless and it was not kind in any way. It told me I was done for. It told me that I wasn't the man that I used to be. It told me my family would be better off if I could just go back to where I had been before. But I couldn't. So where did it leave us? That was the voice that was in my head every single day. Everywhere I went, in the kitchen, out and about, even lying in bed at night where it was extremely loud. But here's what I want you to hear. If I had let that voice keep on winning, I wouldn't be anywhere today. How do you change that voice? There's three things that actually work. First, talk to yourself like you'd talk to your best friend. This sounds soft, but it isn't. It's the most direct way that we can see how wrong the voice usually is. If your best friend was lying in bed at night, beating themselves up for the mistakes that they made, you probably wouldn't pile onto it. You certainly wouldn't say, "You really blew it. You always do this. You're never going to figure it out." You would probably say something more along the lines of, "You're being too hard on yourself. Tomorrow's a fresh start. You'll handle it." Why is it we talk to our friends that way, but it's not okay for us to talk to ourselves that way? Why is it that we have a totally different standard for the voice in our own head as compared to the ones we share with our friends? The next time you hear yourself talking to yourself the way you would never let somebody talk to your kid or you would never talk to your best friend, stop and just ask yourself what you'd say to your best friend in the same situation, and then say it to yourself. The second thing we can do is catch the voice in the act and name it for what it is. The most cruel thing in their inner voice says usually are not facts. They're just statements that feel like facts because they're inside our own head. When the voice says, "You're not enough," stop and ask, "Not enough? For what? In whose eyes? Measured how?" Most of the time that voice can't answer because it's not speaking the truth. It's just speaking out of fear or shame or a broken record that's been going for a long, long time. The third thing we can do, and it's probably the hardest one, but it's also very important, is let other voices in. We talked about this last week and a few weeks back. The voices of other people who really know you. If you're spiritual, the voice of God. What is Scripture telling you? The voice of your spouse who sees you clearly. The voice of your friends who walked you through all kinds of things. The voice of a mentor who's further down the same road than you. Listened to them. Let them in. My wife has been that voice for me many times. When my inner voice was telling me I couldn't do it, her voice was telling me to press on, that I could do it. She would tell me that it would work out. I didn't always believe her, but hearing her say it in the moment, especially when my own voice was the loudest, was the thing that got me to take the next step. It helped me wake up the next morning and move on. And then the next one, and then the next one. Listening to her voice is motivation to keep me going. But that's what other voices do. They drown out that lying voice in our own heads. The more we listen to that positive reinforcing voice of others who support us, the more that lying voice in our own heads goes away. There's something else I want you to hear. The voice your kids will inherit is the voice you use yourself. They're listening. They hear how you talk about yourself. They hear what you say in the mirror. They hear what you say when something goes wrong. They're listening to what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself you're an idiot, they hear that and they will inherit that voice as well. It will become their voice eventually. And that's kind of a heavy thought, and it should be, because the gift you give your kids isn't just the things you tell them, it's the way you talk to yourself in front of them. So for today, pick one cruel thing your inner voice has been saying to you lately. Write it down. Then right next to it, write down what you would tell your best friend in the same situation. Then say it out loud to yourself. Replace one sentence with another. And that's the start. Tomorrow, we're going to wrap up this week-long discussion about the legacy of words, because people will remember what you said long after they forgot what you did. So have a great day, and then we'll see you right back here tomorrow.